Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar HR Toolkit. Thank you for joining today. Okay, so we'll just go through some introductions. So my name's Sam Connor. I'm sales manager here at Interface, and we're Bitrix24 Gold partners. So we're based here in the UK, the US, and Hong Kong, and we offer a full range of services to assist you with Bitrix24. So starting off with pre-sales support, so we can help really to evaluate your requirements, see if Bitrix24 could be a good fit for what you're trying to achieve. And if it is, we can then help with a full implementation of Bitrix24 for you. So we can really set up the system exactly how you need it to work. If you're interested in the self-hosted edition of Bitrix, we offer our own hosting services, and we can then provide you with bespoke training and ongoing dedicated support, and also proactive advice as well to really help you get the most value out of your Bitrix24 system. Okay, so of course, today's webinar is the HR Toolkit webinar, so we're going to be focusing on all of the features within Bitrix24 that can be used to manage your HR requirements. But first of all, if you're maybe brand new to Bitrix, or if you're currently evaluating the Bitrix24 system, let's just go through kind of what a high-level overview of what Bitrix24 actually is. So essentially, Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different modules that you can use to help to manage your business. So we have modules for CRM, marketing, project management, intranet, and HR. So there's a huge number of different modules that you can use to manage your business. But as I say, today, we're going to be focusing on the HR features within Bitrix24. Now, in terms of the user base, there are over 12 million customers now that use the Bitrix24 system. And there are two different editions of Bitrix. So first of all, we have the Bitrix24 Cloud, and then we also have the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. Okay, and during today's webinar, we will focus on both the cloud and the self-hosted solution. If there's any functionality that we cover where you need to have a certain tier of license, then we'll make sure you're aware of that. And then in terms of pricing, so prices start from approximately $49 per month for a cloud-based edition, starting with the basic cloud. And if you're interested in the self-hosted edition, so that starts with the Business 50 package, and that is a 12-month license. And the price has just gone up there for the self-hosted edition, so it's now $3,590 for the first 12 months. And then in year 2, you need to pay a renewal subscription for the self-hosted system. Okay, so that is a high-level overview of what Bitrix24 is. Now let's move on into focus on the HR functionalities within Bitrix24. So before we go in and have a look at the functionality, let's just understand a bit about why we should use Bitrix24 for our HR processes and requirements. So essentially, Bitrix24 has a huge number of different tools that you can use. So starting off, we can use tools for finding and storing employees' information really easily inside the system. And we've got a really nice UI. So it's very simple for your employees to be able to capture and store their details in the system. We can use managing work time features, so we can track and record time inside the system, and your HR team can then analyze each person's working day through the system. And we also have personal areas for different items, so such as contracts, or it could be appraisal documents. We can store all of those documents inside the Bitrix24 system for easy use, and we'll see as well how we can actually share those documents amongst specific members of maybe staff within our organization. Then moving on from there, we also have really powerful self-service forms. So we can essentially build out our very own processes inside Bitrix24 and use self-service forms to manage that workflow. So for example, we can manage absence requests or expenses or even purchase requests through the system. And then you can move on to create even more custom processes, such as maybe onboarding new staff, or it could be a recruitment workflow within the CRM system, for example. So essentially any type of HR workflow or process that you maybe run in your business, we can look to manage that through the different functionality of HR features within Bitrix24. Okay, so now let's go into our Bitrix24 system, because what we'll look at first of all are some of the core HR tools within our Bitrix24 platform. So first of all, let's take a look at the individual user's profile and then the company structure, where we can set up our departments and allocate the users to their relevant departments or multiple departments inside the system. And then we'll take a look at time management, so how we can clock in and clock out, record our time inside the Bitrix platform. We'll then look at personal drives, so how we can capture documents and also share those documents amongst maybe our management within Bitrix. And then we'll take a look at some of the employee engagement tools, so how we can really collaborate with the rest of the team inside Bitrix. And then we'll take a look at some of our self-service forms and automated processes that we can set up. Okay, so let's go into our Bitrix24 system. And as I say, what we'll cover today is functionality that's on both the Bitrix24 Cloud and the self-hosted solution. So we'll point out if there's any functionality that is limited, where you need to have a certain tier of license. So I guess first of all, just to explain, if you are brand new to Bitrix24, this is the browser edition of Bitrix24, and we also have a desktop app and a mobile application as well. So with the system here, you have access to it. It's fully cloud enabled, so wherever you are, whether you're in the office or if maybe you're working remotely or in another country working away, you're able to access your Bitrix24 account. And on the left-hand side here, we have our menu. So here we can see the different modules available inside our Bitrix24 system. Okay, so first of all, today what we're going to look at is our profile area. So if you want to find your profile in your Bitrix24 system, you just need to come to the top right-hand corner. So here I can see my profile. If I click down, I can open up my profile here, and that's where we can store all the information about myself inside the system. But just before we go into there, as you can also see, quite a nice view here just underneath. So this shows you here the employees that are online. So this shows you amongst the team within your Bitrix system who is currently online. So maybe if you want to have a quick chat with somebody who is online right now, you could click into here and open up and see who is available to speak with. So that's a really nice feature available inside our Bitrix system. Okay, so let's go into our profile page. And as we can see here inside our profile page, first of all, you've got a picture here. So we've got an avatar on our system here. Now that can be customized, so you could have your own real picture on your profile there. So all of the team can have their image stored inside the system. And then on the right-hand side, we have all of the different functionality that we are capturing information about. So we can see my title, name and details, mobile number. So you can select standard fields inside here to store information, but you can also create custom fields as well. So this is quite nice because you may want to capture maybe some additional information or data points that you store inside here. So for example, what we have captured here is the skill sets for different people. So inside here, you can have the list of maybe skill types, and then each employee, they can tick what skill traits they are associated to. And that can be really useful because later on we'll go into the employee directory. And inside the employee directory, all of this information can be fed into that directory. So if we wanted to find someone who has a certain skill trait, we could then use the information that's being rolled up from the individual employee's profile. Okay, we can also see if you're a manager here, we can see the subordinates of the people you are managing. And then we also can see with our custom plugin here, the holiday request, which we'll look at later on in more detail. And then at the top here, we have, I think it's really nice within the profile, we have shortcuts to different areas of the Bitrix24 system. So through here, I could click in to see all of my tasks that I'm working on across the CRM or projects. That will open up my task page so I can see all of those tasks. I can go straight into my drive area to see all of my documents. So it's really easy to navigate into lots of different areas of your Bitrix24 system from your profile page. So that's an individual user's profile, but then what we can do to really go at a higher level across the organization is we can set up the company structure for the organization. So here within the company structure, we can add all of the different departments for the organization. We can see here the different departments. Now you can have sub-departments as well. So you can see here within the sales team, we've got the calling departments. So you can have sub-departments linked through the system as well. And now once you've got that company structure set up, we can then add users to their relevant departments. But you can also add a user to multiple departments as well. So it could be a very common use case where maybe you've got people who are, say, within the project management team. They may also be part of the accounts team, for example, as well. They may be working on some projects at the same time. So you can have a user in multiple departments inside the system. And it's really important to get the company structure set up correctly, because this company structure can then be used across multiple areas of your Bitrix24 system. So for example, later on, when we go to look at requesting some holiday leave, we could use the company structure here to manage the approval process. So if you're in the finance team here, then that request, say if Mike submits a request for holiday leave, we could use the company matrix here to then send that request to John Smith, as John is the manager of the overall accounts department. So it's really important to get this structure set up. Again, we could use this for setting permissions inside the CRM system. So determining what data different departments, say from the sales UK team, they may only want to access certain information compared to the sales USA team. So using this structure, it's very important that you have this set up correctly. So a lot of people and businesses that we see using Bitrix, they don't know the importance of setting up this company structure correctly. So it's very important that we get that set up accurately across the system. And then that opens up to our employee directory. So inside here, the employee section, we can see the list of all of our employees inside our Bitrix24 system. And I can drill down into here. So it's a free text search area. So if I wanted to find a certain employee, I can drill down to that information. And the whole UI here, just like in many parts of the Bitrix system, it is completely customizable. Now, I'm an administrator, so I've got the privileged rights to be able to do this. So not every kind of standard user would do this, but inside here, I could customize the UI here. And I can, if I click in the settings section here, I can turn on and turn off different pieces of data feeding in from the user profile. So as, for example, we don't want to pull in date of birth or ages, but what we do want to pull in are the skills. So we saw earlier on how we were tagging the different skill traits that we had as an employee. So I want to feed that information into here. So let's say now, for example, I want to then look as maybe a new employee. I want to find the person who is connected to payroll. So I've got some questions about payroll. So I can search through the system here. And I can see Max is associated to the payroll skill. So I know I could speak with Max about payroll. So then through here, I could then click on the user profile. So any user in the system here, I can click on their profile there. It will open up their profile. And then I could chat to that person directly through the Bitrix system. Okay, so that's a really nice way to be able to quickly communicate with the relevant person within the organization. So you're not wasting time and you're not wasting the other person's time as well. So that's a really nice way to be able to find correct people that you need to speak with. And as we can see here, we've got the instant chat feature. So through Bitrix, there are quite a few ways you can communicate with your colleagues. So it can be instant chat. You can also do voice calls and you can do video calls as well. And that, like I say, that could be with an individual user, or you could set up kind of department chats or project chats as well. So you can customize the audience there that you're going to communicate with through the Bitrix24 system. And with this as well, by the way, you do have a search tool as well. So you can drill down and search through all of that history through the chats that you have with your colleagues as well. Okay, so that is a look at the employee and company structure. As I say, as we go through the webinar today, if there are any questions, please do ask them and we can go through those during today's intervals. Okay, so moving on then now from the user and company structure, let's take a look at how we can manage time management through Bitrix24. So one way we can manage time is actually by clocking in and recording our working day through the Bitrix24 system. Now, to be able to do this, this is where we start to look at the tiers of the Bitrix24 license. So you need to have at least a professional cloud license to be able to manage clocking and clock out using that time management tool. So if you're currently on a basic cloud or a standard cloud license, you will notice you don't have access to this functionality. But the good thing is you can upgrade to the professional cloud to access this feature. Or if you're on a self-hosted system, by the way, then you have access to every single HR feature that we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so what we can do to manage our working day, let's just go back into the home page. And then what we can see through here at the top of the page, we have the clock in button here. So what we can do is I can open this up and now you can see at the top of the page here, it allows me to record my working day through Bitrix. So let's now clock in. Okay, and now we can see that it's now going to start recording my working day through the system. Okay, so it's letting me know here I can see the tasks that I'm currently associated with. So actually through the system here as well, I could start working on individual tasks through that clocking in page. So I can open up the task and I can record time on the individual tasks as well that I'm working on. And this time, this will then get logged inside our employee module. So if we go back into here and let's go into that time and report section and let's go into our work time area. Here you'll be able to see as a HR manager, all of the employees and the working time that they have logged through the Bitrix24 system. So I can click into any of these working days and then I can see when the user's clocked in, when they clocked out, if they take a break, which can be recorded separately, we can record that time. And then I can see what events they're connected with, what tasks they've completed, and we can also add a report into here. So I can see this user has marked that they have finished late. So if there's maybe a discrepancy between what you're expecting to see and what they actually do, the user can record reasons for the different time metrics on their report. So you're able to record all of this through the system. And so you can see here, you can see the tasks that they did for that working day. And you can even then click into that task and see the breakdown of that individual task. So you can go from a very high level to a very low level really quickly through the time management tools in Bitrix. And as we'll see later on when we manage our holiday requests, obviously if someone's on holiday leave, then that will also be attributed into the work time feature. So you're not expecting the user to have been working while they're on annual leave. And through this view as well, you can also drill down to specific employees or departments as well. So, you know, if you've got hundreds of employees in the system, you can drill down into that data very easily through the system. Now, another way you can also clock in using the mobile app as well. So maybe if you're out of the office, you've not got access to your laptop, you could also use the mobile app to clock in through the system as well. And then later on, we'll see how we can then clock out and finish our report for our working day. It's also possible to track violations as well. So if we set maybe schedules for when the employee is supposed to be clocked in and working for that working day, we can also track that. Okay, so what we can do through here is we can set the working hours. So we're expecting the user to be clocked in by 9 a.m. and then let's say they're supposed to be clocked out by 5 p.m. and we're allowing a 1 hour break within that time period. So we're expecting a duration of 7 hours for that user's working day through the Bitrix24 system. Now, if, for example, the user has maybe not clocked in by a certain time parameter, then you might want certain people to be notified about that. So let's say, for example, we're going to be very strict here and we have to say the user must have clocked in by 9:05. So if the user has not clocked in by 9:05, we're saying they need to be in by 9, we're giving a 5-minute threshold, then we're going to be notifying the managers within the system, or we might want to send that to certain departments, for example. So you can really see how you can gain a lot of value through the system. So rather than your HR team having to endlessly wander around the company to see if each user employee has turned up to office, you can use the clock in and clock out features here, and then the tracking of violations to automatically be notified if staff members are not working at the correct time. And that's very important if you do work in schedules within your business. Having very strict and clear clock in and clock out processes is very important, and Bitrix24 gives you that functionality. Okay, so that's how we can track time through the system. Then moving on, let's look at some of the additional and valuable features within the HR processes. So if we go into our collaboration area here, we can see we've got a few different modules available within the collaboration area. So if you're looking to find certain modules, do just check this collaboration area, because this is essentially a nested menu item where we have individual modules rolled up underneath the collaboration module there. Okay, so first of all, here we have personal drive areas. So inside here, essentially, this is your own personal library where you can store all of your folders and documents within your Bitrix24 system. So inside here, you can upload your documents, so whether it's local folders or files, or it could be creating your own Bitrix docs or uploading from Google Docs or Office 365. We can upload those documents into the system. And then with those documents, we can then use the Bitrix24 Docs feature to edit those documents directly through the Bitrix24 UI. So you can have live collaboration and editing with other users on your Bitrix24 system. So you can collaborate and edit those documents through the system. And with the documents, we can then set access permissions. And this is a really nice feature within your personal drive area. So let's say, for example, right now, I'm going to give nobody else access to this document, but actually I've got this absence request document. I just want to share it with my HR manager. So let's go into here and then share it with Dr. Mary Jones. And I'm going to give Mary full access to that document. Okay, so nobody else in the Bitrix24 system can access that document. It's apart from that user. And as I say, it's really nice there that you're able to not just assign access permissions there, but you can then control the level of access, even once you've allocated that document to that user, whether it's read, edit, they're able to share it with somebody else, or complete full access to the document. We can then set that access right through the system. And then we also have the company drive. Okay, so the company drive really is your complete centralized repository for across the organization. So inside here, we can set up different folders, say for each department. And then say, for example, on the HR department, we would give the HR team access to this particular folder. So you can, and again, this is where the company structure comes in, again, very importantly. So as I mentioned, the company structure, it's used and across and talked to from lots of different modules in Bitrix. as you can see here, there we can then feed in the departments through the system as well. So you can select from the structure here the different departments who can then access those folders and files, and then every user within that department is assigned those access rights. And what's nice as well, within the company drive area as well, we can turn on business processes. Okay, so we've activated business processes. So that now means we can run processes directly on the Bitrix24 system. So if we just go into our business process feature here, that you can create and manage processes through the Bitrix24 system. So we might say, for example, there may be a two-stage approval process before the document can be accessed by other users inside the system. So within the drive area here, we could then set those business processes, and I could run those processes directly on the documents that are saved inside the company drive. Okay, so that is a look at the drive area as well. And as I say, quite a new feature within the Bitrix system is the Bitrix Docs feature. So this is their own document editing tool. So whether it's a document, Excel document spreadsheet, or a PowerPoint presentation slide, you're able to create those documents directly inside the Bitrix system. And there is the documents module. So you have a drive area to store documents, and then this is where we can create brand new documents from scratch. Okay, so that is a look at the personal drive area. It's really useful to be able to store information. One of the features, just before we look at employee engagement, you also have a calendar as well through Bitrix. So inside here, all of the different meetings or schedules that you have, you can store those events inside your calendar inside the system here. And very similar to the company drive aspect, you can also have a company calendar where you can store the company-wide events as well. And just to mention, with the personal calendar here, you can also synchronize with external calendars. So that's quite a nice additional plugin that you could gain benefits from if you wanted to have your Bitrix calendar talking with external calendars as well. Okay, so moving on from there, let's take a look at employee engagement, because essentially that is one of the most important aspects of the Bitrix24 HR process here. So essentially, Bitrix started off as an intranet system years ago. So it really did start off as a collaboration and an engagement tool to allow employees to engage through a platform. And obviously, in today's world where people are working from across multiple countries or working kind of a hybrid working style, it's very important to be able to engage with your employees through Bitrix24 platforms. And within Bitrix, there are many different ways we can communicate through our system. So first of all, within the feed section here, just to point out, this is essentially the feed area. This is your very own personal intranet board, essentially. So inside here, anything you are associated with as a user. So I'm here, I'm Max Smith, the user. So anyone who sends a message to me or assigns a task to me, all of that information will be routed and fed into my feed area. So this is like my own personal intranet newsfeed board. But inside here, you've got a messaging area. So what we can do is you can send messages to your users or to departments through the system. So we might say, for example, I want to message everyone in the sales team. Okay, so let's say I'm just going to notify the team that we're going to have our next meeting on Monday, and then I can select the audience for that particular message. So I want to send this to the sales team. So again, this is using that company structure where we're able to feed just the users of the sales team. So that is now the message, and let's call this sales meeting, and I'm going to post that message out through the system. So it's going to go to that particular group of people. So rather than having to have endless email chains or actually setting up a meeting to communicate this, you can post your messages out directly through the Bitrix24 system. And then through the feed section here, I could actually set up that sales meeting. So let's say if I want to set up that meeting for next Monday, and then I can add in the rest of the sales team. Okay, so I can see all the team there, and then I can select the time and I can see everyone's availability. So let's now call that sales meeting. and then let's save that inside the system. And now the sales team are all going to be invited to that particular meeting through the system. Or we might want to set up, again, another just a type of way to engage with your employees. You could create polls. So rather than actually saying when the meeting is, we could ask a question and get people to select from different answers. Okay, so then let's just send this out. Okay, and then again, we're going to send that just to the Sales UK team. So you can see there's a number of ways you can then communicate through the Bitrix24 system to your different departments. Okay, so it's not just posting messages, you can set up events, you can send out polls. And another really nice feature is you can send out appreciation. So if someone's done a really good job, what you can do is actually you can allocate a badge to them. So thanking them for their hard work. So let's say inside here, I'm going to select the employee for this badge. So let's say it's Mike, but I want everyone in the business to know about this recognition. So I'm going to send the message to all employees. Okay. Okay, so Mike's done a great job closing the sale there. So we're going to send this, Mike is going to get the badge, but we're sending the message to all employees. So they're all aware Mike's done a really good job. So again, about creating that kind of really strong company culture, engaging with your employee. Bitrix24 is fantastic at managing all of the different ways you can engage with your employees through the system. And all of those badges that you get through the appreciations, if you go back to your profile, those badges will be stored inside your profile area here. So in the appreciations area of your profile, you'll see all the badges and recognitions that you have been awarded. So it's just a really nice way to gain buy-in from your employees using those appreciations. And one last type of a post to mention through here is an announcement. Okay. So an announcement is slightly different to the rest in the sense of if you have critical messages that you want to and need to get across to your employees in a very time-sensitive manner, you can use an announcement because the message will get pinned to the top of their feed and we can force the user to mark that they have read that message. Okay, so I send this message out. I'm going to keep the message pinned for a week. Okay, so let's now take a look at this as another user inside the system. So let's just take a look at this from another user's perspective. So we can see all those different posts that we sent out. So on any post that comes through on your feed, you can add a comment, you can tag and add your own messages back. So it's really nice to collaborate through the posts. But you can see with the announcement here, very different. You have to mark that you have read that message. Okay, so let's mark that I've read that. And again, you can add your own likes or comments back on that message. So it's really nice the way the announcement feature works in the sense where we can see who has now marked that they have read that message. So I can see 2 users now, Max and Mark, have acknowledged that message through the system. Okay, so that is a look at the feed area. And another, just to mention while we're in the feed, is a feature called the Company Pulse. So this is quite useful for maybe your administrators because it gives you an overview of which areas of the Bitrix24 system your users are using the most. So you can search by individual employees. So I can toggle looking at individual employees here. Or we might want to look at it based on the company-wide usage of Bitrix24. So it will show you here what's been used most. I can choose my time parameters as well to analyze this. So I can see right now the drive area is really being underutilized. So actually what I might want to do is post out a message to the team, just getting them to maybe be aware that the drive module is there and it's available and the benefits to using that drive area. Okay, so that is the Company Pulse, which is a really nice high-level analysis of the usage of the Bitrix24 system within the organization. Okay, so let's just see if we have any questions that have come through through our LinkedIn or on Zoom. Okay, so question there, can an employee be in more than one department? So yes, absolutely. So you can add an employee across multiple departments. So you're not restricted to what a user being in one department. You can add them across multiple departments. Okay, another question around time management that we looked at earlier on, where we can clock in and clock out. How do I disable the time tracker? So it's a good question. So if we go back into our Bitrix system, so as I mentioned, to use the time management tool here, you need to be on at least a professional cloud license anyway. So if you're on a basic or a standard cloud or the free edition, you won't have access to the clock-in feature anyway. But if you do have access to that, you can go into the employee module. If you go to time and reports and click on the work time, then on here on the left-hand side, for each user, you can come into here and you can hear the working time management. So I can turn that on and off. Okay, so that's where we can then toggle exactly. Maybe you want certain departments or maybe individuals who need to be clocking in and clocking out. Maybe other people who have maybe flexi time, you don't need them to be recording that time. Then you could turn off that functionality, or maybe just restrict the violation. So maybe it's only for certain employees. You could then go into your work schedules and then just assign those violations and schedules to specific users. Okay, and that's something our team here at Interface can help. These are where we get to the very granular settings within Bitrix, which is very important that they are set up correctly for your individual business needs. So please do contact us, sales@interface.com, and we can have a conversation with you to help you to get your settings set up correctly, because it's only once you've got all of these really granular settings set up accurately that you can then start to gain value out of the Bitrix24 system. And that's what our team here at Interface is able to do. Okay, so that is a look at some of the questions. Obviously, if there's any other questions, please do add them into the question box and we'll be happy to continue to go through those for you. Okay, so moving on now let's take a look at some of the self-service forms available inside Bitrix. So self-service forms are essentially ways you can manage a workflow directly through the Bitrix24 system. So one of those workflows we can manage is an absence request. So you could request for holiday leave, so vacation leave, directly through the Bitrix24 system. And so let's just take a look at this from the front end as a user. Let's say now I want to submit to have some holiday leave through the system. So let's go and have a look at this. So we do this, first of all, for the holiday leave through the feed section. And then we want to go into the more area here. And then we can open up the workflow tool. Okay, so that's now opened up the workflow tool. And I can see the workflows that are available to me. Again, as we've seen, the Bitrix system is very customizable. So you can customize what workflows are available inside this section here. But for this demonstration, I want to request some new holiday leave. So I can open up the request leave form. Now you can see now the form is opened and there are specific fields where I need to enter the information. So, okay, so I'm going to add the start date and the end date of the holiday request. Now, the fields here that we've got made as mandatory, that's completely customizable. So you might not want to have, maybe it's just the start and the end date that are mandatory. You can customize this and you could even add different fields into this form. So it's very flexible to be designed and managed for your processes within your organization. So I'm going to submit that holiday leave through the system. Okay, so it's now submitted that request. And as you can see now in my feed section, so I can see my request has gone to my manager and it's now waiting for approval. Okay, so I might just want to mention to my boss that I have submitted this. Okay, so even on the request, you can actually add additional information like so. So that's quite a nice piece of functionality. Maybe you wanted to add additional information to the request that could be done through the feed. And then if we go back into this as a manager, so I can see that request has now been fed through. So I've been notified about that new request. So I can go into my workflow area. And then I can decide whether to approve or to reject that request through the system. So I can see all the information about the request. And what I may want to do at this point is I could go back into the absence area of Bitrix. So I can go into the employee module, and then inside the time and report section, we've got the absence chart. So here I can see all of the absences across the organization, whether it's holiday leave, or it could be sickness or business trips. You'll be able to see all of that information through the absence chart. So this is a really nice view to be able to access as a manager. So I can see Mark has requested the 11th of September off. Nobody is off at that time. So I'm happy to approve that leave through the system. Okay, so let's now approve that request, and that will now get added to the absence chart. Okay, so that's essentially how we can manage a workflow directly through the Bitrix24 system. But let's just go on. I just want to show you how this looks really on the back end of Bitrix24, because we have what we call the business process designer tool, where we manage this request. Okay, so let's just go into the workflow. Because what we can do with the workflow is really customize this to your specific requirements. Okay, so this is what we call, this is essentially the back end of Bitrix, because this is the business process designer tool. But what we've just seen from the front end, where we submitted that holiday request, it then went to my manager to either approve or reject, and then that gets added to the absence chart. This is the actual workflow that's been constructed for that process. So you can see, first of all, we requested the leave through the system, and then there was a decision matrix. So that went to the manager, as we saw, to either approve or reject through the system. And then based on that information, we can then make a decision. So if it's approved, then that's going to come down this particular workflow. So we are going to notify that the user who requested the leave, it's been approved, and then the holiday request is going to be added to the absence chart. But if we rejected that leave, it goes down a completely separate path. So it comes down here and it just notifies the requester that the leave has actually, unfortunately, it's been denied. Okay, so we can use the workflow tool here to really design out a workflow to your specific requirements. So on the right-hand side here, we have all the different action blocks that we can use to design and flesh out our workflow. So let's say if I wanted to add another, maybe approval layer into here, I could add another condition into here. Or let's say if I wanted to edit a functionality in Bitrix. So you can see here, it's drag and drop technology to design out your workflows through the system. And it can look quite complex, but that's where our team here at Interface can help to design those and make sure they work accurately for exactly how your process needs to work through the Bitrix system. But that's just one type of request. So for example, that could be a holiday request. But just to give you a completely other type of way you could use a workflow, maybe it's to manage the setup of a new project, for example. So let's say if I know there's now maybe a new internal project that's going to take place, then I want to use the workflow tool here to bring a group of people together and streamline the creation of that project. So let's say if I'm putting together a new project for our website creation project. So I want to bring a group of people together for working on creating the new website. So I can choose a manager, and we've got different roles assigned to this project. So that's, again, completely customizable. And then I want to add a deadline for the project. Now you can see here, we've only got 3 mandatory fields, but we have additional fields that you might want to add information for. Text that's been added, and then we can choose a project type. So again, this is where we can use conditions on a workflow. So for example, if we choose project A, that's going to show specific tasks in that project. Whereas we choose project B, there will be a completely different selection of tasks. So you can see how you can use those different attributes. If you've got different project types, we could use that information through a workflow as well. Okay, so let's now submit that project. Okay, so I'm the project manager, so I have just now the final approval to commence that project inside the system. And now we can see we've been notified the project has been created. So let's now go into that project. And you can see now that it's opened up automatically a project profile work group. So inside here, I can see all of the members of the team, and it's created the specific tasks that need to be managed. So we saw how we chose that type of project. That was the correct one, because now we've got the website build task automatically added into the work group. So rather than having to set up manual tasks, you don't need to. Using business processes, it can automatically bring the tasks and the people together onto the project. So it can save so much time, and also it can stop human interference and manage human error. So if you're having to create tasks manually for the project, then that could be prone to error through the system. So processes like this can save so much time for the business. And then one last other type of process. So we've looked there at the business process designer tool. Another type of way you can manage a workflow is using robotic process automation. So inside your automation area of Bitrix, so in the automation module, this is where you can then design your own processes using RPAs, so robotic process automation. And the key difference with robotic process automation is it takes a lot of the functionality from the CRM system, especially around leads, deals, and SPAs. So essentially using RPAs. So for example, here we have a recruitment workflow. So here we're managing the process of applicants, of interviews, and then going through the whole hiring role process to hire new staff in this recruitment workflow. So what we do is we create stages that we progress our entities through the workflow. And within each stage, we then have automation rules that we set up to manage that particular element. So let's say, for example, once we move to the phone and interview stage, we're automatically sending out an email to the applicant, asking them to book a phone interview through the system. So we can then automate the dialogue to the user through the system. When we get to the hiring stage, we then have an approval process that's going to go to the hiring manager to approve or reject the hire through the system. So you can manage all of the interaction externally and internally using the power of automations here. And one of the key reasons this was set up, the RPA feature, is because it is slightly easier than using the business process designer tool. So inside here, we can set up our stages, create our custom fields, and then set up the power of the automations to streamline the whole recruitment process. And that's just one example. If we go back into our RPAs, you can see the different flavor of workflows we have here, from business trip expenses. It could be new employee onboardings. So you can see how there's a huge number of different ways we could use processes in Bitrix to manage your business processes through the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so that is a summary of our HR Toolkit webinar today. I hope you found that useful. So we've seen how we can manage and create our individual user profiles, storing all of the information really associated to ourselves. And then at the top of the user profile, we've got shortcuts to different areas of the Bitrix system. And then we have the company structure, where we can design out all of the departments across the organization. And I hope you've seen how important that is. So across many modules of the Bitrix system, that company structure is pivotal, from managing approvals to assigning permissions on documents to sending out communications to different departments. That company structure is critical for really getting value out of the Bitrix24 system. So if you need help, or if you've not got that set up correctly, we can help you with that. We then looked at time management tools, so how we can manage our working day through the Bitrix system. We saw the personal drive area, where we can store documents. Lots of ways we can engage with employees. So I hope you've seen how There's so much value to using the engagement tools through Bitrix24, from posting out messages to creating polls and events, or sending an appreciation to someone, or posting out an announcement for critical information. And then we saw how we can assign permissions across many areas of the HR modules. And we've just seen then how we can use self-service forms to streamline processes within your business. And we've got robotic process automation, which is a cleaner UI and a more simpler way to design workflows through Bitrix24. Okay, so here are a selection of our up and coming webinars. So we're here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. UK time. So if you want to register for our future webinars, please go to intraface.com/webinars, and we look forward to seeing you on those future webinars. But if you have any questions in the meantime, you can contact us, sales@intraface.com, and one of our team will be happy to discuss your questions or help you in any way with Bitrix24. Okay, thank you very much for your time today. Bye for now.